Today I'm just going to have some fun doing a painting of some camellias, or no, I think it's peonies. Wait, what is it? Dahlias. Okay, it's dahlias. And I'm going to do just a very really loose sketch of where the shapes of these flowers are, because I'm going to do something very expressive. I just feel like having fun today. So just to get the areas kind of blocked out where some of these shapes are. And since I'm doing a very light drawing, I don't have to be too careful about the line. I'm not sure what colors I'm going to use, but I do have some transparents here. I have some few quinacridones. I'm going to start with wetting my background primarily, and I think I'll do what we've seen before, which is letting it really soak in. It's kind of the thing that we've seen Brenda Swanson do, or Swenson, where she does the negative space painting. And I like the softness of things in the background like that. Since my board is tilted, I'll have to be careful because sometimes the water pools down at the bottom and creates this backflow, and I don't want to see that happen in this one. So I'm going to go over it a couple times with water. Give it a chance to soak in. Might have been a good idea to put a little bit of liquid Frisket on there first, just to define some of the flower petals, but I didn't do it, and it's too late now since I have water on here. Well, I could do it on some of the interior. Let me do it in a few places, just on petals in the inside of the flower where it's not wet. And so I'm looking at the pattern of some of the shapes here. I'm thinking about what Anthula does with her white line and how effective that is, and this might look nice. I'm taking Anthula's technique today. And she's traveling, so she can't see this right now. So she won't know I'm copying her. Kind of neat to just be drawing with your liquid Frisket.
Is your frisket slightly tinted so you can see it when it's down?
No, I don't really like that. I don't, I just, I can see where it is because it has a different sheen to it.
Okay,
Yeah, I've never really felt like I needed to have that.
okay.
Okay, so now what I don't have in Frisket, I can always come back with some gouache. So now I'm kind of up to this flower. I'm discovering my neighborhood has a lot of interesting sounds, revving motors, boats going by, loud booming box music. interesting people walking by because at the end of the street is River Fine Foods.
Sylvia, are you close to your daughter?
It's about a 10-minute drive, which isn't too bad. There are lights, that's why it's that far, but if I were to be able to ride an electric bike on the levee, it'd probably take me, I don't know, like my daughter said, 5 minutes. I'm not sure. Because it's a straight shot. I'm a half a block from the levee and she's about a block from the levee. So you ride on top of the levee. It's just that when I told my landlady, I thought I would start walking on the levee. She just was silent for a minute. Then I realized, oh yeah, she probably read what was on next door, that there were people who were driving along on the street below the levee, firing pot shots at the people walking on top of the levee, which is really pretty awful. So I may not do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds wise.
Yeah, it's too much of a risk, I guess, or like my daughter said, just go in the areas where there are more people, like closer to the ferry. Okay, so I haven't had a chance yet to go out and get started doing some plein air painting. And it's supposed to start raining for the next week, but I do plan to start doing that. And just go on the ferry over to the French Quarter with my watercolors. And then I'll be able to share with some of the people in my outdoor class what I'm doing. Okay, so hopefully that's soaked in a little bit now. And I'm going to just start dropping in some colors. I generally always start with yellow. I'm looking at the yellows here. I'm seeing some that are a little bit more like a yellow green, and I have one here. Let's see. So I'm going to drop that in first into this area in here. A little bit, whoops, maybe the friscuit's still a little damp, so I better be careful about that. And then kind of a nice coral color, and I don't know if I have my quinacridone coral handy. Let's see. I really don't know. I don't think that's what this is. Let me get it. Because it's a pretty color. Okay, this is a quinacridone coral I just squirted on, and I'm going to put a little of the quinacridone pink on here too. See if this is dry. Okay, yeah. I'm going to mix that with a little bit of the yellow that is more toward the red. kind of drop that in. I know I wet the background, but I'm painting the flowers. Makes no sense at all. And the background, I see a really beautiful, kind of a green, almost a phthalo green, I think. Which is a very staining kind of a color, but I'm gonna try putting some of that in here. If you can see that, maybe if I use my brush this way. And I'm gonna put a little cobalt blue in there too.
Sylvia, last week we talked about the person who said to have a mixing brush. And we mentioned we'd never heard that before. Well,
Right.
this week in watching your what you sent us to be able to watch, another person mentioned to have a brush that you use only for mixing your paint.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's time to try that.
Yeah. It's just you have to remember to change brushes after you're finished mixing.
Yeah, which, I'm not sure if I could actually get into that. I think I'd have to think too much.
I think it's so to save your good brushes.
Oh, Oh, I see. Yeah. I'm not spending as much money on my brushes now as I used to.
In Chinese painting, we use a little short kind of scrubby brush to mix the paints on the palette. Um, but they're pretty thick. They're very light gouache. Um, and I think it's because, the regular brushes are like very long rounds with, lots of body, and you'd lose a lot of paint in the body of the brush, or what they call the belly, I guess. Um, but the little um, short, slightly stiff brush mixes sort of unwatered paint or barely watered paint um, pretty easily.
Okay. Well, I was gonna get my squirt bottle and I forgot to get it. I'll have to go and look for it. I know where it is. Now, while that's I just put in some light cobalt. I need to drop a little bit of some of this other color in here too, so that it's spread around slightly. You know what I talked about, color harmony. Oops, I just about put a color I wasn't really wanting in there. If you use if you really do, work with really dry paints, that would be one reason to, use a mixing brush, because that would, if you're trying to reconstitute it, it would probably damage your brush. But I'm usually not using the drier pigments. Oops, oh dear, there goes a blue. Okay, I've got to look at where some of these brighter colors are in here. Okay, so trying to work around my camera, not easy. Okay, I want to get some darker darks in here, and then I'm gonna sprinkle some salt on. And I've got to soften some of these edges. Gonna drop a little bit of some of this rose color in here too before I do that. And then, because I'm putting it in the flowers, I think I need to have spatter a little bit so there's kind of into the background too. All right, let's spatter a little salt on there. I think I've got too much water in this one spot. Well, I hope I didn't wait too long. Oh, it's funny, the color on the video looks very harsh compared to in reality. Looks much softer on the painting, thank goodness.
It looks very pretty on my monitor.
But the reds look really kind of like an alizarin crimson, and they're not on my painting.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so while the salt is drying, whoops, I've got to lift a few places where the paint is running in. Get a tissue for a paper towel. All right, so I'm looking now just to see where I want to have a little bit more like a brighter yellow in this center part of this flower. And then I need a little bit more of this coral up in here. It really doesn't look like coral to me. But it says it is. Yeah, I want to put in some stems. It's still a little damp. One thing I really noticed is that I tend to like my photos better when I take them in a cool light, so maybe I need to add some cooler colors to my painting, like, you know, my green, for instance, perylene green. It's a perylene green. I have to get my palette closer, I can't really see it where it. I'm mixing it with a little bit of ultramarine and dropping some of that in. Okay, now I want a kind of a dark green, so I'm using some of the, I think it's the phthalo green. I'm gonna add a little bit of violet to it. Even a darker tone. Doesn't seem to want to dry today. Because I keep adding water, maybe. Okay. Now I'm looking at some shapes and I need to start to define a few more shapes and colors. Oh, there's a yellow flower here. Oh, I don't like how bright that suddenly became. Right, I'm looking at it to see what I need to do to make it more of the color I would like it to be. Oh, look, I'm getting this cauliflower at the top because I had my board tilted that way. So I have to fix that while it's still wet. Coming back in now and going to use some negative space painting. Okay, still kind of damp. I didn't want to have to use my hair dryer, but I think I'm gonna have to. Before I do that, though, I'm gonna get some gouache and define a few edges. Camera back a bit. So I want to define where my my petals are. Up in here.
We praised the court's ruling on affirmative action as a great day for America, and we promised to expand gun rights nationwide. The court followed suit. Controversial decisions that have helped continue to erode public
These
trust in
people.
the high court, decisions that were not widely popular. In 2022, 58% said they
What's
disapproved
Dee Dee?
of 5% from just the year before.
There, I had to mute Dee Dee. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just using gouache to let, and it's still very wet, but so I'm letting the gouache kind of soak in. I actually kind of like that effect. Now I can come back with some of this yellow that's maybe a little more like the yellow I want. Not quite as bright. Okay, I'm going to get the hair dryer. Okay, what I think I need to do when I look at this now, I would like to, oh, this isn't dry yet. I would like to take the frisket off, but I think I'm gonna end up using gouache to get more of the color that I like on the flowers themselves. It's not a bad basic underpainting, but it really needs some work with the color of the flowers. I want to try to just dry that one section